Do you want to hear something absolutely insane? If you're confused about AI and not really sure how you should be using it, that's actually a good thing. So imagine this is you, and sure, you've dabbled with AI, but you know other folks are out there really kicking ass with it. And you feel stuck and frozen up because it's getting more powerful and more complicated every day. I want to show you 3 reasons why this will help you win in the end. My name is Casey, and I've started a handful of companies, including a marketing agency where we helped software startups basically not die and in a few cases make ungodly amounts of money. And to that note, I want you to grab a piece of paper and draw a few lines. I call this my 9-11 exercise. I want you to draw 9 vertical lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And 11 horizontal lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 horizontal lines. That's 80 boxes. Each one of those is a year of your life. So now turn that page on its side, and for however many years old you are, you're gonna count down for however many decades you've been alive. So I'm 47, count down 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the row below that, 7 over. And I'm going to mark that, and you can now see very clearly how much time you have left. And of course, that bottom row there between 70 and 80, we know it gets pretty hard to do stuff. So I'm not sure how you want to count that bottom row, but this is your runway. This is your time runway. Now I want you to think about how many years of savings do you have, and mark off those boxes. So, maybe you've got a couple years or maybe just a few months. Maybe you've got nothing at all saved. You're just kind of living paycheck to paycheck. So mark that off. If you've got no runway there, I can totally empathize. I have been in that situation myself. And I think no matter what your money runway looks like, for most people, it's going to seem really short. And mine was very, very short not long ago. I want to tell you a quick story. When ChatGPT came out, I was running my agency, and I had been looking at the AI space quite a bit and seeing how quickly these large language models were advancing, but they still felt kind of far away until ChatGPT launched. And my agency at that time, all we did was write long form blog posts. That was it. We didn't do any other service. So I knew that this creation of ChatGPT was going to be immediate trouble. And I went into a state of massive confusion. And I was on vacation. I remember this so clearly. I was on vacation in Key West, and there's a long, long bridge that ties together all the different keys down there in Florida. And I was kind of freaking out. I was really freaking out. That acute freak out is what I call a gun to the head feeling. And there is very few motivators that are as strong as that. So hopefully this piece of paper will help you get a little bit motivated there by looking at, the time that you have left, your time runway, your money runway. There's another runway I'm going to get to here in a second. Probably the most important is coming up. But it was on that long bridge down there in the Florida Keys that the idea for Blazing Zebra came up. And Blazing Zebra is a pretty funny name. I feel like I want to explain that to you. Blazing simply means we got to move fast. We got to start doing stuff. And zebra means you've got to embrace what makes you uniquely human, what your unique talents are and the things that you love to do. We're going to get into an exercise all about that here in a second. But one of the teachers that always helped me so much in these gun to the head moments is a guy named Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's right-hand man. Charlie Munger talks a lot about all these different mental models, but inversion might be the most important. One way to invert your confusion about AI is not to ask, how do I use AI, but what do I want from my life that AI can now enable? You can even toss that right into Gemini. And in that way, you're using this confusion, perhaps right along with AI, to push you to understand yourself first. And that was super helpful to me while I was making my own transition. Now, getting back to this idea of runway. For freelancers and entrepreneurs, runway isn't just financial. There's a hidden runway that most people miss, and this is how long you can maintain your focus and your motivation and your personal well-being before you burn out. And nothing causes burnout faster than doing something that you really don't love. And truth be told, I did not love running my agency. I'm not sure if you've seen this show called True Detective. If not, you got to go watch that first season. There is a scene there where the character Matthew McConaughey plays says, life is barely long enough to get good at one thing. So you got to pick that one thing very carefully. That quote really spoke to me when I was in my moment of crisis. And this next exercise is probably the most important exercise I've ever done in my entire life. I came up with this list of things that I wanted in life. And you can take a screen grab of that, or you can download the ebook that goes along with this video. I create an ebook that goes along with every single video I create. They are all instantly available to anybody who joins my Patreon. There's a link in the description to that. But anyway, here is the list of items that I came up with. And I decided, you know what? I need to just pick three. Pick three of these that are the most important, and that's what I want you to do. Everybody kind of wants everything on this list, but you're not gonna get everything on this list. Look back at your runway and realize you've really got to focus. Find your three, and this will really help you pinpoint games that you can play for a very long time. I call these my three non-negotiables, and they were critical for helping me find my path in this new AI world. These were the three that really spoke to me. Now with these, along with your runway calculations, we can really start to pinpoint your position in the world. So I'm going to grab this prompt here. I'm going to drop it into Gemini, free tool. Gemini you can use to figure this stuff out. And I'm copying in my non-negotiables. I'm going to separate these with some quotation marks. That just helps the model to understand what is the context versus what is the prompt. I'd probably use Gemini Pro for this one. Really interesting. It has generated some pretty interesting ideas. One of which is exactly what I'm doing right now. How funny is that? AI is forcing everybody to pivot in some way, and you can use this as your compass to avoid pivot after pivot after pivot. I've seen many people going through this, just chasing the dollar or whatever the shiny object of the day is. Trust me, just work through these exercises and it'll help you figure out a path that you can tread for a very long time. By the way, I hate this whole you have nothing to lose attitude, you can just go get your job back, etc. You've got a lot to lose. Take a look at that graph. And this gets me to the second point about how powerful confusion can be right now. The fact that you're still uncertain about all this and trying to figure it out is really protecting you from committing to something that doesn't align with who you truly are and what you really need in the long run. I know a lot of early adopters that jumped into the first idea that came to their mind, and now they're really stuck. They've pivoted over and over, and they've developed some really bad habits. Now that we've figured out your runway, your compass with those non-negotiables, and your position with that last prompt, we can get into establishing your beachhead. Beachhead is a military term for when an army is trying to establish themselves in a foreign land. They don't try to just take on the entire land. They find one small place that they can dominate and build a stronghold in. And I think every business needs to figure out that beachhead. I've got another story for you. I was working at a software company a long time ago, very early in my career, and they were really doing some things that I didn't think were right. So I quit that job and I became a cab driver in Chicago. This was long before Uber, and it was kind of a dangerous job where you're driving around very late at night with a whole lot of cash. I happened to love it. But before I could become a cab driver, I had to go to cab school. And in cab school, there were so many different people from all over the world, literally all over the world. And the teacher of the cab school said something very interesting that I keep with me to this day. She said, you know, sometimes you have to do something you don't want to do in order to do the thing that you really want to do. So a lot of these cab drivers, they drove and they saved their money until they could afford a medallion. A medallion is basically a business license that the city of Chicago allows you to drive a cab, and they're very, very expensive. But these smart cab drivers, they would save up, and instead of leasing their medallion, they would buy their own over time. They would save more money, they would buy a second medallion, and they would keep going in that way until they had a gas station. And a few of them who were very smart and very hard workers became financially independent long before my college buddies ever made that transition. So for those folks, getting in that cab and saving up to buy that medallion, that was their beachhead. The cab driving was also my beachhead. I didn't end up owning a gas station, but driving a cab gave me some time to start tinkering with websites, and one thing led to another that has allowed me to do what I do today. So depending on how long or short your runway is going to have a major impact on the best way to establish your beachhead, your strategic position. Now we can grab this prompt that will build on what we've done so far and help you brainstorm some suitable beachhead strategies. This has pulled in some really awesome awesome strategies. Look at this, the scientific moat report for biotech investors. Some really nice niche ideas here that resonate with my non-negotiables and my runway. So I talked to a lot of people who are excited about starting a software business, and I can tell you that's still pretty difficult. You would need some significant financial runway to really get that off the ground. But consider a service business that can help you pay the bills right off the bat and give you some time to experiment and build your software, and you're spending a lot of time with your customer that will be very, very beneficial in the software that you build. That services business gives you this agility advantage. So you're not dug in and invested in heavily some piece of software that OpenAI might just decide to roll out next month. So a while back, I was talking to a venture capitalist who has funded a lot of different startups, and he told me the kiss of death for any startup. And I thought this was really interesting. He said, if a startup goes out there and raises a bunch of money, and the first thing that they do is buy a bunch of swag with their name on it, pens and coffee mugs, jackets, that's the kiss of death, he said, because that is not important stuff. Understanding your customer, that is the important part. And here's a great way to get inside the head of your ideal customer, using a large language model to figure out their ideal outcomes, including multiple different transformations that they're trying to make. Logical, emotional, and identity-based. So all decisions are made on an emotional basis. Most sales pitches are just on a logical basis. So thinking about those three are going to really make sure that you're able to speak to them in a way that's going to work in the end. You've got to prove, figure out how you're going to prove to them that you can do what you say. You got to make it fast and got to make it easy. So I'm going to drop this in to our same chat string. And I'm very interested in this scientific moat report for biotech investors. I've been looking at ways to use AI for investment strategies, so that is perfect. So we'll use this to get inside the head of those biotech investors. This is so cool. The idea of transformations in marketing is one that you should pay special attention to. That's at the key of all great marketing. Awesome. So this has really pulled together a great offer for this service right there. In addition to deeply understanding your customer, you want to focus on consistency. So again, getting back to that compass, figuring out the path that you can stay on for a long time. I knew when I was starting this channel that I needed to create 100 videos before I could tell if this was a great idea or not. It happened to be something I loved media, I loved recording, I loved, entertaining in various ways. So I knew that I could stay on that path for a long time, because it's shocking how much work it takes to really break through the noise and make progress in any different direction you might be headed in. But while we're on the topic of understanding your customer, this brings us to the third advantage that your confusion brings you. This is what Rick Rubin calls the beginner's mind, which allows you to see opportunities that other people miss. You're completely unconstrained by the typical ways things are done, and that is super powerful. Because I've got great news for you. The chaos and the confusion does not end. In fact, it intensifies, so embrace it. The moment you get something to work, you know that it's guaranteed to break. And the moment that you feel like you really know what you're doing is basically when you start losing the game. So yeah, it doesn't end, but it often gets better and more enjoyable, especially if you've set out in the right direction using these exercises. You're building what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragility. He'd argue that your current and maybe long-lasting uncertainty is making you less dependent on one single tool or approach. And as the AI landscape shifts, you'll naturally be adaptable to whatever comes next. Remember, every expert was once confused and every master was once overwhelmed, but the difference was that they saw this as the start of their journey, not the end. This ebook is absolutely packed with resources that improve upon everything we've gone over, including extensive notes and extra prompts around getting inside of your customer's head. This ebook and over 150 others are all instantly available to anybody who joins my Patreon. There is a link in the description, so check that out if you got something out of this video. And if so, I've got another video all about strategy for you here that builds upon what we've gone over. Just click that link and I will see you over there.
Make your dreams come true.